Everybody, welcome to the CoinGeek Weekly live stream. I probably should have cleared my throat off the air during the jingle, but I'm your host, Kurt Wooker Jr., as professional as I'll ever be, unfortunately. And I'm very grateful to have you on the show today, everybody. Today is officially, will be remembered as the first Soon Eve, trademark. And we're going to be talking about all kinds of really fun stuff. So please, actually, I don't even need to say it. There's all kinds of people posted in the comments here already asking questions about what's happening soon. But first, I want to thank a number of our sponsors audibly. The first one is Bright Gang. Twitch Bright Gang. Not really a gang, not really very bright, but here we are anyways. Find me on Twitch. Always follow me on Twitch first. But there is all kinds of other fun places to follow me as well. Including Twitter. You can DM me on Telegram. You can ask me all kinds of all kinds of questions, because what I really want to do is be the guy to help connect businesses between developers and customers, and we're going to start to tie some of this together as much as possible. So on Soon Eve, I know everybody's wondering what the hell is happening soon. What do you think? I'm gonna spill the beans here on the show. I might give you hints. I will also be giving away some BSV, as we have given on every episode. Thank you to the delightful I Am Zatoshi on Twitter, as well as Twitch and freebsv.com. I also want to thank our sponsor, buybsv.com. I think I said freebsv.com first, but freebsv, I Am Zatoshi, and buybsv.com. And just so you know, stay tuned. Sometime in the middle of the episode, everybody always gives me the fear that they're not going to arrive because that's the way my life goes. But the lead developer of the most important token in the history of BSV will be on the show a little later today. Mr. Crypto Acorns himself, Joshua Henslee, CEO of Acorn Stack and the CEO and lead developer of Shua Coin, the most important coin in the history of BSV. So let's talk a little bit about what happened this week before we start pushing questions around. Oh, also, thank you, Alec Moon, lovely assistant, for doing everything he does every day here, helping me out. Producing the show really would not be possible without him. So thank you to Alex. Everybody should thank Alex. Follow Alex on Twitter and everything too. So this week, I actually went viral kind of by accident. I did an appearance on CJTV, which is a YouTube channel, talks about all kinds of stuff in the cryptocurrency space. He's a BSV supporter, but talks about all kinds of things. And, well, he heard my live stream last week and then said, hey, can you come on and explain some of the connections here between Blockstream and MasterCard and some of the small blocker pseudo conspiracy theory stuff. But I hate to call them conspiracy theories because the information about them is not on fringe websites. I very happily will cite the New York Times and Washington Post and other players like that. And I want to make a clarification on the show. So if you haven't watched, just Google or YouTube search CJTV or CJTV Kurt. It'll come up. It's got about 10,000 views last time I checked. So a lot of people are watching it. And I talked a lot about what's going on, or what has been going on since 2015 in the space when MasterCard helped found Digital Currency Group, and then Digital Currency Group helped found everyone from Blockstream to Lightning Labs to Coinbase, Kraken, and some of these other big players, but lots of them, like hundreds. And I encourage everybody, go to Digital Currency Group's website and look at their portfolio, and then you'll know everyone that is sponsored indirectly by MasterCard. But I want to point out that MasterCard is not evil. And the banks are also not evil. Like, they're not, I mean, necessarily, I guess the people there could be really evil, but, I just want everybody to realize that the point that I'm trying to make is that they are business competition, much the same way that, PayPal and Venmo are. So if you have a really bad experience at PayPal and you want to stick it to them, the wrong way to try to stick it to PayPal would be to say, well, I'm switching to Venmo because Venmo is a subsidiary of PayPal. And so when people say, hey, I'm a Bitcoiner, I'm going to screw the banks, screw the credit cards, I'm switching to Bitcoin, I'm going to leave the fiat economy. What I'm saying is that the Bitcoin that most people are interested in, the BTC and most of the Ethereum space, they're kind of owned by the same people. So I don't want people to to think that I'm calling out like the head of the dragon was one of the things that I said a couple times on the show, but I'm not saying that they're pure evil, but we do need to understand that they are business competition to Bitcoin. And what they did is they created the opportunity to control the direction that Bitcoin goes and make it more valuable to them. So they're not necessarily thinking about how to make it the most valuable to you. They're trying to make it the most valuable for them. So I think that's a careful distinction that people need to be aware of, but also be aware of that there are also evil people in the world. And, there's a balance here. Okay. So that's the long and short of it. But on that topic, I want to say too, that the way to win, and we can win as individuals, me and you and all the people out there in BSV land, we can win this war. But the way that the war is won is by doing business development. If we can create really, really big blocks, like really big blocks, terabyte-sized blocks, then who's going to stop us, right? But how does that happen? Are we going to wait for Calvin and Craig to go out there and pen business deals and bring big business to Bitcoin? I mean, they may do it. They may get to the point where they're looking for stuff to do soon, right? Sometime soon. There's big news coming always. But I want you to realize that you are a powerful person too, and that you have the ability to connect big businesses to the developers and bring identity solutions and payment solutions and all kinds of things to Bitcoin SV too. So every one of you should think of yourself as a business. And if you don't know where to start, but you have a good idea, or maybe you have a business connection, feel free to DM me. I answer all my DMs. Sometimes I answer them slowly, and I apologize. But if you want to bring me good ideas, I'm happy to help guide or just connect you with the right people and go that direction. I noticed Mr. Henslee is in the green room, so we can bring him in soon. We'll bring him in a little bit. But if anybody has anything specifically questions, please feel free to put your questions here in the box here. I will answer questions directly. I will answer them live, and we'll bring hey, what's up, my friend CJ? Good to have you, man. I will answer the questions live, and we'll pursue that. But one thing came up over the last 2 days. I thought that was really interesting. There was the token swap protocol. So there's a company building an app called Token Swap. And what they want to do is compete with Uniswap, the Ethereum project. It's the one with the unicorn that trades your shit coins across the universe and makes everybody $1 billion that they earned by doing very little except buying coins and holding them. But what's cool is that it brings traffic to Ethereum. What sucks is that it's on Ethereum, and therefore it costs about $800 to generate a wallet today on ETH. So Token Swap, they are developing a competitor to Uniswap, and they're going to build it on Bitcoin SV. Allegedly, it's pretty far down the path to being ready to go. But they were saying, hey, we need the ancestor limit to be lifted. We know the node software has been produced. Why aren't the miners acting? And what they did was something I find very curious. They reached out to Steve Shatters on Twitter, assuming that Steve Shatters has the ability to make the miners act. And I want to remind everybody that the most important thing, probably the most important thing about BSV is the return to original Bitcoin governance. And original Bitcoin governance is by proof of work rendered by honest nodes. So if you need something to be changed, if you want something to be different about BSV because you have a business opportunity, I want you to think of the miners, the transaction processors, the people running the honest nodes as vendors in an important business relationship with you. So if you're developing an app that needs some special service, maybe it's something that nobody's thought of before, but you have a network need, well, you should reach out to, I think Tal is a good one, but you can also reach out to people like Mempool Mining. Lynn Zemming is really keen on being the first guy to do all kinds of cool stuff. He likes to be the first dude. So if you need services, remember that you need to reach out to miners. So BSV, Steve Shatters only has the power to develop software or lead people to develop software, the teams he leads. And Steve's cool. Steve wants to help you too, but Steve cannot make miners update their software. So this is something that I think would be really, really important for the people in the BSV economy, the people that are building things, to think of miners as your business vendors. These are your friends, and that's a really good thing. So let's put that in there. Alex saying, Kurt, I love you. I love you too, Alex, man. I've been looking at your pictures from you and Andorra. It looks like you're having a really good time out there. I'm excited to see what you're working on. You've been hinting about solving some big problems out there too. So I'm curious to see what you're up to. I have a feeling you're doing some cool stuff too. So that's why I love you. That's why I love Hand Cash. I'm excited about all that too. And then my buddy Stefan Nilsson, also a very, very cool guy. And actually one of the guys that's doing that real biz dev work that I keep talking about. He's behind the scenes out there making the big handshakes happen. So I'm excited to see what Stefan and Unisat, the seafood chain stuff. Stefan's got the supply chain thing working out really, really well. Had a couple people sending me DMs asking what the heck this is about. My 18-month-old son, I was playing with him in the house on Sunday night, and he kicked me in the face, and I didn't think anything of it because it didn't hurt. But when I went to brush my teeth at night, I looked in the mirror and I have a bloody tear streaming down my cheek. So I have been attacked by my 18-year-old who drew blood on me. So for everybody concerned, I will be okay. You should see the other guy. You should expect to potentially see more of that. I'm also a mixed martial arts coach in the evenings. And occasionally I have a black eye at my desk. So if I show up on the show looking beat up, or if I've got a missing tooth or something, that's also totally a thing that could happen. So let's talk a little bit. In a little bit, we're going to talk a little bit about a Tether, but I would like Joshua's feedback on Tether in a few minutes. If anybody else has any questions, Alex, are there any questions queued up, or should we? Oh, okay, here we go. Chronobear, how do we prepare the business development schism between the Bitcoin ecosystem and target businesses who are likely outside Bitcoin? Onboarding still blows. First of all, you just pointed out something. Onboarding does still blow, which means there's an opportunity for you to solve the onboarding problem as a business solution. So not to say that it's easy to start an exchange in the US, but there is a business opportunity there. And I happen to know some people that have a little bit of money who would be interested in helping you set something up, if you're willing to do the biz dev and take some point. However, that schism will be bridged by people that see that opportunity. What we really need are sales, onboarding, and ongoing customer service people that see the opportunity to help out, make money in the middle. So connect those developers with the people that need a payment or data integrity solution, and that's how that gets solved. Fernando Gonzalez Domenech, I don't know. Would tokens have a real price if you create a good project with them? Absolutely. I mean, you can build an economy out of tokens any day, frankly. I mean, think about if you owned a series of restaurants. Around me, there's a company called Let Us Entertain You. I don't know if they're even global at this point, but they started in Chicagoland. They own a bunch of really fancy restaurants. Now, if they were to create a Let Us Entertain You token, you could exchange your dollars for it and use it as membership points. And if you pay with your Let Us Entertain You tokens, maybe you get 5% off your meal or something. So that instantly is the creation of a token that creates a business model, and it's provable, it's on chain, it's public. You can swap your tokens and all of that, but they shouldn't have more value than, I guess, 5% less than $1, right? But if you sell them, maybe they do go up in value or something, but there's very simple business opportunities right there. And frankly, the protocols exist, the wallets exist. You've seen the tokens in the Money Button wallet ever since Shua Coin changed the world forever. And easy peasy. So go start a token-based business. That's the easy part as I see it. Question: Edison or Tesla? That's it's a really interesting question, actually. I remember Craig talking about how Tesla was fake news, that he was not real. Edison was the good guy, and it's funny because there's a long history of people talking about how Tesla was this brilliant engineer who had all of his great ideas stolen and suppressed, and So I think people would have thought, hey, Craig should resonate with that, but they were surprised to hear that um, Edison is his favorite. I think he said maybe even his favorite inventor. So personally, I find Tesla's inventions more interesting. I like the idea of no wire necessary connectivity. In fact, a lot of the stuff about Wi-Fi is a really good example of application of Tesla technology. However, I mean, Edison was also brilliant. I mean, we all benefit from the ideas of both men constantly. In fact, I'm using the ideas of both men simultaneous right now on this live stream. So I guess thank you to both guys. I think Tesla's more interesting because he's dark and shadowy, but I don't know. Good question though. Next one. Hey Kurt, who's your favorite UFC fighter? Who? All time or current? I guess if I were to say all time favorite UFC fighter, my goodness, this is hard because I go back old school. I think the funnest era in the UFC was actually the early era that had almost no rules. So I really liked Royce Gracie and watching a 150-pound Brazilian guy in his pajamas beat up a bunch of big scary brawler types. I think that was a lot of fun. Of course, I was like 10 years old when that happened. So it was like, oh my gosh, these people are killing each other. Modern, I would probably say Khabib Nurmagomedov. I actually, one of my training partners is a former training partner of Khabib's. So I've always had a good time with my my Russian Muslim friends because they fight like hell and they're a whole lot of fun too, but also classy and cool. But Khabib, he's a grappler. I'm a grappler primarily. I'm a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy. And Khabib is I mean, he shows the power of grappling. So my two favorite fighters of all time, Royce Gracie, Khabib Nurmagomedov, both grappling superlative type guys. So that's where I'm at on that. Rick Howard, I'll ask the hard question of the day. Kurt, what is worth more, cryptocurrency or a great Italian beef sandwich? I don't think cryptocurrency would be possible to have existed without the precedent of Italian beef, frankly. The Italian beef sandwich is the single greatest sandwich in the world, and it's only available in Chicago. If you've not had a Chicago Italian beef sandwich, you have never eaten food, as far as I'm concerned. So have fun staying hungry. Fernando, where is the banking system corrupt? If so, why is Bitcoin not a noble project? Everything is corrupt. I think this is an important distinction to make. The corruption is a personal decision. Things become systemic, but there are good people who work in banking too. So is the banking system corrupt? Parts of it are. Yeah, I think central banking has bad incentives and leads people toward bad behavior. Commercial banking, on the other hand, I like my local bankers. They're good people. They work with me well. So I think it's important not to be too binary and too absolute. Bitcoin creates better incentives, which makes people less likely to be corrupt. It makes them better at cooperating, at least at scale. So I think that's an important distinction. What's the most critical part in Bitcoin's history? The future, maybe? I hope it's not in the past. I really would hope that it would be in the future of Bitcoin, frankly. But going back, gosh, man, it's so hard. I mean, there's so many things. I think the first one might be maybe the precedent created in 2013 when blocks were reorganized at the authority of Bitcoin Core, and miners protested because there was a chain split. And it actually wasn't even a real chain split because Bitcoin was going forward on a new version and it was being mined and everybody was cool. But there was a bug that split the chain. So there were some nodes that were on the old rules, and the developers strong-armed the miners to follow the shorter chain, which in my opinion was actually the death of Bitcoin in a lot of ways. So the BTC of today is a hard fork from 2013. A lot of people don't know that, but it set a lot of really weird governance precedents that have yet to be fully righted. We frankly have multiple versions of Bitcoin out of consensus ever since. And it should also be noted that Gavin Andreessen fought it pretty hard and said, hey, the longest chain with the most proof of work is Bitcoin, and that's it. So I think that's an important one that more people should know about. And I have an article coming about it quite soon, next couple of days. So Jack Pitts, favorite jujitsu finishing move? Depends. In no-gi, I am a leg locker for life. I love the heel hook. And I do a lot of weird heel hook variations because I have long legs and I'm a big guy. I'm 6'3". So my leg locks don't really work against smaller people very well, in which case I attack the neck. But if I'm in the gi, I love attacks from the back. I love bow and arrow chokes and things like that. But I train both gi and no gi. I also do Muay Thai and some other stuff as well. But yeah, that's my favorite group of subs here. Fernando, why are you so against Bitcoin Core? I don't think against is the right word either. I see them as a competitor. I don't like small blocks. I don't like that the opportunities to BTC are focused on the absorption of value. I don't want people to need to buy Bitcoin in order for value to exist in Bitcoin. I like big block Bitcoin, BSV, because it incentivizes the creation of value. And creation of value is a lot more interesting to me than absorption of value. And there really isn't anything else to do with BTC other than absorption. And I'm not interested in just earning money with stuff sitting in my wallet. I mean, that's cool. I love good investments, but that's something that I liked about Bitcoin in 2012 when I got involved. But I'm much more interested in incentivizing people to create really cool new business models with a really cool new business tool. And that's big block Bitcoin. So that's why I do what I do. Alan Ross, what are the chances BSV changing the protocol in the future? It's an interesting question because the words here are crucial. People misconstrue the difference between the words software and protocol. Now, technically, software has its own set of protocol rules. So there's let's say lowercase p protocol and uppercase p protocol. So the protocol of Bitcoin was set out by the initial reference implementation and the white paper. So the white paper defines the rules, which are set in stone. Bitcoin never changes. The protocol that is Bitcoin is unchanging. However, you can have different opinions and you can express that differently in software. And that's why there's multiple implementations there that exist. So it's a little bit of a play on words, but it requires a nuanced understanding of the protocols of software versus the protocols of Bitcoin. So there are Bitcoin rules that are unchangeable because they are contracted and it is the miner's job to enforce them. But then there's also software rules which enforce simple things like the ancestor limit, which just changed in the last, frankly, today. So let's bring in, we have Mr. Lead developer of ShuaCoin. We're going to take a very brief break and we're going to look at a quick video from the sponsor of the episode, and we will come back with the lead developer of ShuaCoin.
This is buybsv.com, the quick and simple way to buy Bitcoin SV. You can't miss it. It says a quick and simple way to buy BSV on buybsv.com. It's safe and secure. Within an hour, you'll own BSV digital assets, which means it's so quick and simple. So if you want to buy BSV, use buybsv.com. It does exactly what it says.
Hello, Mr. Henslee. How are you doing, sir?
Very good. You?
I'm great, man. It's good to have you on here. Also, kudos on the lighting and stuff. You look dramatic and authoritative, which I think is crucial for the lead developer of a very important token.
All I did was move lamps around. It's nothing. I don't have any special setup.
No, man. It's all about the being handed from down on high, the rules that make ShuaCoin valuable. Can you first of all tell us a little about who you are? Like, what's your business? What do you do in BSV? Why should people know you?
So I've been messing around with Bitcoin for only about, I guess, 2 years now. So from early 2018, but I had a 6-month foray into altcoins and all that stuff, and then saw the light in BCH and rode that until for 5 months until there was a fork to BSV. And at the time I still had a job, so I was a software consultant for a top firm in the US. And we served enterprise customers doing ERP software, specifically Microsoft Dynamics 365. So I did that for about 7 years, and but late 2019, I quit my job full time to do BSV. So I'm just doing general consulting. I write for CoinGeek every week. I have my own products that I've built, and I help people out. Run a YouTube channel to do tutorials, and I'll keep doing. I'll have a refocus on that this year. So that's kind of what I've been doing.
That's awesome. Yeah, it seems like, it's funny. You and I sort of met briefly and slowly, and I've seen your stuff on Twitter, and then we met in London finally for the first time, of all places, a couple of Americans meeting at a bar in London. But it was really good to meet you there, and realize everything you're up to. I think people probably don't realize how many hats you wear around the BSV ecosystem, but there's a really cool bit of things going on. So people bring you up all the time. Hey, everybody, there it is, the first one. Simply Cash Wallet, sweep that wallet. Thank you, Satoshi. Thank you, freebsv.com. If you want to win that money. I have no idea how much money's on there, but it's a lot better than me holding up a card to the camera. Am I right? So, yeah, just so you know, like, Josh, you're one of the people that every time I talk to anybody, they're just like, oh, give this to Henslee. He's the right guy for this. He's the best guy to work with. And so you should know that you're popular. So let's hear the story. And I'm sure it's magical to all of us, but it must seem so mundane to you, the creation of Shua Coin. What's the backstory there?
So I was just gonna do an article about SFP, the money button token protocol. So I never actually decided or intended to like make a token that people would want. So I went to the docs and I figured, okay, well, if I can mint one and create one, then I'll have a good enough understanding to write an article about. So I went through the docs and it looked like, oh, okay, if I'm able to mint one, it'll probably show up in my wallet. So I figured after a bit of hacking around, I figured that out and it worked. So then I just posted a screenshot of social media with the eyes emoji, just like everybody else does. And people just started wanting it. So I only did 100 just for testing or whatever. And the first offer on Twitch was for about 25 cents. So the first 75 of those sold for around that price. And then the next 15 went for around $1. So it was just complete open market on Twitch, and they sold out within like, I don't know, 4 hours or something. And now they've been traded peer to peer, which is, I think is awesome. So it's like, there's no exchange built or anything like that. So it's just people doing trade between themselves, which is great. And I have nothing to do with it, which is awesome.
No, it's incredible. So I bought 10 of them because why not? And I am selling them for $218,000 each if anybody wants one. So by all means, send me a DM. I will sell them for $218,000 because I want them to have enough value for it to be worth Josh's time, all the development time that went into creating Shua Coin. And basically, I think it's such an interesting experiment in like the arbitrary value of things, like the fact that you basically created it by accident, like you were tinkering, but then like we realize all of a sudden that it's socially significant, and obviously you weren't thinking, oh, I'm doing something special here, like, but immediately like people are like, oh, here's this token in money button wallets, and then you realize that like there is this aspect to like supply and demand that's like, oh, this is a special thing. This is this new protocol. It utilizes Paymail and all this stuff. And like, I mean, what a social experiment, right? I mean, it's like a really, really little microcosm as to what the heck, Bitcoin is, right?
Right. Yeah. And I think the reaction and the fallout from it was like kind of this stuff that built up over a while. And then it's finally possible. And I think that's what made it so exciting. And, we had 1,200 tokens as of a few days ago, which I think is great that were just created, and people are just doing all kinds of crazy stuff with it, which is, I mean, I feel like that's how we move forward. And I think it's a great counter to the, I think, harmful law narrative that's been around BSV. Is, you know, you have to start playing around, right? And as we saw today, you know, all the FUD around Tether, which I totally believe resulted in basically nothing, right? So that might not be over, but the reality is that was, you know, that was a slap on the wrist, right? Just like EOS. So, you know, the penalty for messing around with this stuff is really, I don't think, anything to be concerned about, especially at where we are at right now. You know, most people think BSV is a scam. No one's really looking at it. People keep talking about how it's down to what, 24 or whatever on CoinMarketCap. So, you know, some folks don't think that's relevant. Some people do, but the broader crypto space, they're not paying attention at all to what's going on.
Well, how many of the top 25 coins right now are just Ethereum tokens? I mean, like, people talking about, oh, these tokens are arbitrary. I can think of at least a couple that are ahead of BSV and market cap right now that are Ethereum tokens. And so this notion, I think you're absolutely right. The law narrative certainly does apply to some things. It should be a business consideration for everybody. Like, will this land me in prison? But you know, just like the Uber model, Uber started as a gray market business, and they were told no in a lot of places, and they're like, well, stop us, you know. And if you're earning money, then you pay the fine and you move on. And so I'm a big fan of gray markets becoming white markets by proving, hey, your business model is obsolete, and we had to create this kind of in the dark because you guys are so backward. But I think it's right to call the law narrative a little bit harmful, because it does. It makes people afraid to innovate. And so, you know, kudos to you for creating something that potentially is an illegal security. So
that's the thing, right? Like, the government, you know, lots of folks in BSV would probably consider themselves, or Bitcoin in general would consider themselves, good economists or understanding of economics. But the government's bound by economics too. This is why, like, you can't really get away from the free market. Like, they're never going to come after someone who does a $1,500 ICO, right? Or a $15,000 one, or 150,000, or even 1.5 million. Now, if you do 4 billion, you get a 6% fine. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'll pay you 24 million out of the 4 billion I made. Or if I'm Tether, I'll print how much? Billions? 18 of it.
Probably $30 billion at this point they've printed out of probably nowhere. Yeah.
And how much of that 18 million goes into Letitia's pocket, right? What if she's trading Tether on these exchanges? These are like, it's funny, man. Like, you got economics and you got second order effects. It's like, okay, government's supposed to do this, but what are they actually going to do, right? What if Letitia is a crypto trader? Is she really going to crack Tether down? No, she's not. No. The SEC, right? EOS. One of the people prosecuting them could have been a big bag holder of EOS, which would explain the fine that they got, and how Dan Larimer has done 3 fucking cryptos and is out there free, right? He's had 3 cryptos in, I think, all the top 20. Right? Hasn't learned anything from when Satoshi owned him 10 years ago, and he's still out there a free man, right? And he's one of the biggest criminals, right? So it's just, we got to start going, man. If we're going to compete with these other chains, we have to, like, just innovate and do stuff, and can't be afraid of, like, imminent law soon things that are never going to happen.
Yeah, no, you know what? Amen, man. If I could clap without making everybody deaf in my microphone, I would, because it is. I mean, we're fighting, like, we are fighting a very, very asymmetric battle here against people that are willing to do all kinds of stuff. But this is, you know, people say crypto is the Wild West, and in some ways it is, but it's like, well, why does the Wild West have that reputation in the first place? Well, because, like, the companies that were trying to build train tracks and trying to do, like, they were doing the same thing. They're out there sabotaging each other's trains, and, you know, trying to steal each other's wives, and doing, you know, they're doxing each other for what they're up to in the bordellos and stuff like that, because it's like, I'll just ruin his reputation. I'm going to take over his land claim. And, you know, some people die and they get buried out in the middle of friggin' nowhere. And it's like, oh, I'm the sheriff now, you know, and, like, No, these people are respectable. In fact, a shipping company that was out shipping stuff back and forth from the Wild West. Their logo. I'm going to reveal the company in a moment. Their logo is a wagon because they used to wagon supplies and money back and forth from way out west back when it was nothing, and they were sending wagons back and forth from California to New York. And today that company is called Wells Fargo. and that was exactly that. They're like, hey, if we control all these supply chains, then what we can do is we can sort of become a bank, because we can just, rather than shipping it back and forth, you can just deposit it. We'll send a message back and say, hey, they've got this much on deposit. And then over a generation, they just became a bank. And this is exactly how things are won. Like, not everybody is sitting there and asking their legal department. They don't go in the morning and say, hey, we have a great business idea, but we're going to let it sit for 6 months in legal. What you actually do is say, hey, get writing this patent, and we're gonna start selling it. And if we start to sell it and it's successful, we'll put a little bit more money in the patent department and make sure that we get our asses covered. But damn it, we need revenue right now. And so get out there and sell. We'll deal with that later. So yeah, I mean, absolutely, man. You're 100% right. So that's that's fantastic. I think you're 100% right there. So let's take a couple questions. Maybe you'll answer a question or two here too. Is Delt Cleeks? I don't even know what Delt Cleeks is. Delta Sealy? Is this the Deltec Bank? I'm guessing is a big bank that a bunch of crypto people do business with. What's going on with that? Do you know, Josh?
I think that's Tether's bank, and apparently there's some rumor that there was a leak of some of their information out there around the same time this news dropped, but I haven't looked.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I haven't really either. Deltec's a good one. People want them to be the bad guys because of their connection to Tether, which I'm aware of, but like, they're just a bank saying, hey, we're going to take on a bunch of weird risk and fund a bunch of crypto stuff because I think it's cool. So I think, like I said at the beginning of the show, it's important not to say that MasterCard are evil or that these people are evil. Like, these are just business decisions that are being made. Like, hey, this Bitcoin thing could be worth something. Let's make it work for us. Fund, create Blockstream and whatever. So we need to think of these people as business competitors, not, Satan. We're not going to fight a holy war. I'm not going to pull out a flaming sword and fight them that way. Like, we win by doing business and winning. So, whatever. Next question, Alex. What can we expect from the on-chain stress test? Hopefully, in my opinion, it's not a stress test unless there's an orphan, because then you didn't stress it, right? So we've learned nothing if we don't orphan a block or get a weird reorg. So I guess, hopefully we push a gigabyte or whatever. But I don't know. What do you think, Josh? What would you like to see in a stress test?
More stuff to break. Like, all people still running nodes to have their stuff go down. Because I think lots of folks still haven't learned a lesson. Like, Craig's been saying it for I don't know how long. Stop hoodling and stop running nodes, and people still keep doing it. So inevitably, if there's a gigabyte block, it's just gonna break everything. Some people learn, like some folks don't run nodes, but I'm pretty sure Money Button still does. Twitch does not. I don't think Relay does. So it just, you got to pick and choose like who does and who doesn't. But inevitably, it's just, that's how we grow, right? Stuff breaks and you come out of that, you learn and you implement, you go back to it.
Oh, we haven't been mentioned by BitMEX Research in a while for for our reorgs. So yeah, I'd like to see, you do, you got to break stuff. I want to see some reorgs. Hey, there's the next opportunity to win. I don't know how much money's there, but sweep. And then if anybody wants to win another one, I think we got 2 more after this one. So download Simply Cash. Be ready with your Simply Cash wallet to sweep the wallets here. We're always giving away money. Thank you to Satoshi and freebsv.com. Grateful for all of that.
So I have an announcement to make.
Do you want to do it now? Should we wait till the end? What do you want to do?
Oh, you do it now.
Let's do it now. All right. Joshua Henslee with the big announcement.
So given the high demand for the Schwab, I've decided to allow conversions for 1 schwa to me for 700,000 that will be deposited into your RelayX wallet via your PayMail. So you can reach out to me directly. This is live on the RelayX site right now, relayx.com/wallet. And also what we've done is, while I'm on this stream, I've airdropped 50 schwa of the new on run to the to all the people who replied to Jack Lou's tweet where he teased about listing different coins. So if you left your Relay One handle in there properly, you've been given 50 schwa. So you should see that at relayx.com/wallet.
You, sir.
I want to talk about that transaction. So this transaction was almost 100 kilobytes in size. It cost me, it was one transaction to send 50 schwa to about 200 people. So it had about 200 and something outputs. It cost 4 cents, right? I would love for somebody to do this on another chain, because you can't. You can't send that type of stuff to 200 people for 4 cents on any other blockchain.
What about Binance Smart Chain?
Maybe.
I'm kidding. I responded to a help a reporter out email yesterday, and they were asking that, like, is everybody going to migrate to Binance Smart Chain from Ethereum? Because I heard from a friend who works at one of the big custodians that he had to generate a wallet on ETH yesterday, and it cost him $800. So, yeah, it's wild to see that coming. But that's fascinating. And this was, did you say it was a run token?
Yes. So the reissuance is available on Run, and I mean it's optional, right? You can't go back, and it's centralized right through me. But I think it's the right move, and I think it'll create more open trade, right? Because the demand has been so high, and you can tell I didn't plan this because it was only 100 tokens, right? So by doing this, we expand the supply, and it's proportional to the holders, right? So they don't get diluted. There's no inflation or anything like that. So we could just let this thing ride and see where it goes.
No, this is exciting. So that's, as probably the second biggest Shua holder in the world, I'm very excited for the future. But it's so funny. I see a question. You see this last question here, Alex, from Tog, saying, "What's the fees on Binance Smart Chain?" I actually looked into it because it's basically just a copy paste of what Ethereum 2.0 is supposed to be. It's a state machine. It's account based. Gas fees. They basically it's Ethereum 2.0 with a higher gas limit, and the fees I've noticed are already at like 3 or 4 cents. So for simple transactions, so like sending some to another, this isn't address generation. This isn't smart contract launching, are much more expensive already, and it's because these models are broken, and but people are obsessed with liquidity and DeFi, and just leaving their money on Binance and hoping to make money. So I think that's really fascinating. Josh, I have to ask, are you interested in doing work? Like if somebody were to say, "Hey, I want to launch a token," do you want to be the guy to help them launch that token, or do you want to be left alone?
Well, I thought about making the tool to help people do it with the Money Button SFP, but I think it was 24 hours and there were 2 up already. Yep. So that was great, right? I think that's just proof of how fast we could go when we kind of open it up. But as far as helping people out, I mean, I'm a big advocate of Run. I've done 2 tutorials. I have a 3rd one coming out soon on the protocol, and so I can definitely help out with that. Especially, I think the Money Button one, it's good. It's easy to do, but one of the issues with it right now is it's closed, and you need it's centralized. Which sure, that's great for some use cases, but for this distribution, this is one of the reasons I ported to Run, or I want to port to Run, is because it is more open, and it's UTXO native, which the Money Button is too. But you don't need an authorizer, so you don't need someone signing off on the trade. For example, you can't send those Money Button ones outside of Money Button right now. Someone can implement that, but they have to do it with a PayMail and all this stuff. Whereas with Run, you can send to any type of script. You can lock it in whatever. You can mine run jigs. You can do all kinds of stuff. So it's just a more flexible protocol, and it's more open. And I'm very excited to see what gets built with it going forward.
Yeah, that's badass. So first of all, thanks for deciding to make cool announcements on the show. And actually, I should probably give you a little bit of credit here, because a big part of the show came from a conversation that Josh and I had on the phone probably 2 or 3 months ago now. Josh, man, you reached out and was like, "Hey, man, we should have a call." And I didn't know what to expect. I wasn't sure what it was going to be. And you pitched doing a live stream. You basically described the show, and so thank you. First of all, I think it was just a good place to start. I actually didn't even think of hosting a show myself, and I started kicking around like, well, who would do it? Who do you think would be good for this? And Josh is like, man, I think you'd be great. So you deserve some kind of credit there. I guess a thank you might be enough, but probably more. And just as your friend, I want to say I feel like I owe you a little more than just a thanks. But seriously, thank you. I'm glad to be here and started with you.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I think this show has been great so far. I think the questions have been higher quality. There's good discussion in the chat, so I think this will be really good.
Yep. Well, thanks, man. I got a question here from Dario saying, "Why is everyone so afraid of BSV then?" I mean, speaking for everyone is dangerous, because I am not a vicious neoliberal fascist dictator, but I will speak for myself. I mean, BSV changes everything. It literally disrupts everything from financial to telecom to logistics, and anything that can run on the internet runs different and probably better on Bitcoin. So BSV disrupts not just all the crypto space, which is almost $1 trillion in market cap now, but it disrupts probably another $50 trillion worth of the old economy too. So I mean, that's a very scary thing if you're one of the old school guys with a lot of money sitting in mutual funds and thinking you figured it all out and everything's going to be just fine. And there it is. I mean, it's just a big business competitor. It's the biggest horse in the game, and it's underestimated by almost everybody right now. So that'd be a scary thing. It'd be something worth suppressing if you were heavily invested in the old economy. Josh, I got to ask, do you have any other interesting information or interesting thoughts? Do you want to stay on through the end of the show? Should I let you go? No pressure.
I mean, I can stay on.
All right, cool. Let's bang them out. Alan Ross, how do BSV miners decide how big of a block they should mine? Josh, I'll pass that one to you, man. What do you think? How would you decide how big of a block you want to mine?
I think there's ways to check other nodes to see what their settings are. I think that's in the APIs. So that's one way. Another way, I guess, is just old school, get on the phone and, you ask them. Because, I mean, if you look at the rates, the hash rates, you can kind of know who's mining a lot and not. So that's one way to tell. And if over X% of that has their block size limit set to a certain degree, you can kind of figure out, okay, then I can try that. I can make this attempt. But if you try to do it on your own, we saw this lots with mempool over the last 12 months or so. If you just try to go rogue and just do it, you could get orphaned and then you lose money. And they didn't mine that many blocks, so it would be really bad when they lost one. So it's something. It's like a calculated risk, right? You have to kind of check what do people accept. And I guess this is a valid criticism of when it was a few months ago when someone was doing a stress test, but they were doing low fee rate transactions, but they didn't tell anybody. And then they got mad when they didn't get mine. On one hand, they should probably talk to people. On the other hand, they kind of strong arm, right? It's like saying, all right, I'm just going to flood the network with these transactions. And eventually they cause so many problems, these transactions, that Tall just had to mine the block. So, you could look at that and say, well, why isn't our fee rate right now 0.25 instead of 0.5? Well, because if these guys can just bully their way in and just say, no, this is the price, because the miners can't handle, this many transactions at a time. Then they can. That's why demand's so important, because like they kind of force people to act below what they were willing to accept, which that's how the market should operate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you create a bidding war, right? And it's like, how much money was the first car versus now you can buy a brand new Toyota for probably 15 grand or something, 20 grand. But back in the day, I mean, it was tons of money. Like, this is why new technology is like, wow, this is only for the rich. And then it scales up and things get cheaper. They figure out more efficiency in the marketplace. And, but yeah, that's a really good point, is that there's obviously some demand for much lower transactions that you push out into the mempool. But yeah, as for the biggest block, just looking at the hardware myself, or looking at the software myself, and sort of the state of the network and hardware, I would guess they, in theory, the network could probably handle 5 to 10 gigabyte blocks before everything got really weird, like lots of orphans and that kind of thing. But miners don't want to orphan, so that's always going to be an issue. What was the next question, Alex? Are these token protocols standardized and compatible across platforms? As far as I'm aware, every token protocol is different and incompatible, but maybe Josh, you can confirm.
Yeah, as far as I know, by across platforms, do they mean apps or chains? I mean, if it's just the chain, then yeah, I don't think any of them really interoperate at this moment. They could, someone could build that, but we've got like 10 or 11 different protocols right now. I think stuff could be built to switch them out, but that's yet to be seen.
Yeah, well, and then a lot of people consider cross-chain. I mean, that's the big thing on Ethereum now. So you get the Link Marines out there doing their peppy memes about their cross-chain swaps, and that's going to be not something we're interested in long term. But it's not super hard to build a token bridge either to go from Ethereum to BSV, for example. It's just, there's got to be the opportunity, there's got to be the demand, and somebody's got to build it. But from a software standpoint, it's relatively trivial for a good developer to produce something like that. Are you planning to move any Shua coins publicly? Pick a day, move the coins.
I mean, that airdrop transaction, that was from my stash, so anyone can look. I think that transaction is newsworthy itself. So I'll post the TX ID out there and people can look at it. Like I said, it's 100 kilobytes and costs 4 cents. So that was from my stash, so people can go and see that. That's
badass. So just the token part of it was 100 kilobytes, because isn't a typical Bitcoin transactions like 250 kilobytes, right? So maybe you can explain that a little better.
Oh, 250 bytes, you mean?
Oh, my bad. Oh, okay. So it was
it's the outputs. It was because it was 200 out. It went to 200 people at once.
Makes sense. Got it. Crystal clear. All right, that's cool. Got another one, Alex? Oxymotron. I don't know if that's a typo or something ironic. I don't understand. What's the inflection point where, for an average size business, the TX fees are higher than hardware costs of a BSV node? Feel free to define average in your example. Inflection point for where an average size business, TX fees are higher than hardware costs. I mean, I don't think that. Go ahead, Josh. What are your initial thoughts?
I think what this is saying is, like, if you're enterprise and you're like using SQL or something and all these servers, at what point would the fees on BSV become so low that infrastructure doesn't make sense anymore? That inflection point, that's really hard, because you got people that have various software and infrastructure setups, whether it's cloud-based or hosted. Lots of folks have been moving to the cloud, so I would imagine it. I think I can speak from experience. One of the reasons for that is because it is cheaper versus running their own stuff. So I'm not sure where that point is, but I think that this question points out kind of the inevitability of Bitcoin, because that point will happen if there's demand, where I'm Visa, it's like what I'm doing doesn't make any sense anymore and I can't compete.
Absolutely. Hey, everybody, sweep that Simply Cash wallet. Get those bits or sats or whatever I'm supposed to say. I don't know. It's an interesting question. You know, like people bring this up and they talk about the cost of running a node. And you don't really like, even a business, if you're not mining, you don't need to run a node. Like there's so many good options for running light nodes and various SPV things. But there's also all kinds of things that can be built. So if you have a specific need and you want to use Bitcoin as a data processing tool, I mean, people can build you a special purpose wallet or a special purpose light node and all kinds of things that don't have to carry the entire blockchain. You can also make direct relationships with miners. And I said this at the beginning of the show. Reach out to Tal or Mempool and say, hey, my business has this thing where we want people to have ownership of the data that's coming through our company. So we want people to have their own private keys, but we want to validate on our own. Like make a deal with Mempool or Tal Mining. They'd be happy to code you up something special that gives you more direct access, more data, and you know, an interface to provide to your clientele or something. Like there are a lot of ways to go about this without, you know, needing to run a node. Like having nodes out on the edge of the network makes the network less secure. I know this is the opposite of how you know, Bitcoin's been explained to a lot of people for a long time, but you don't want there to be nodes that are creating friction for the network. You want the inner circle of mining nodes to be very powerful and very closely connected so that they can provide light node services and wallet services and all kinds of stuff out to the network. So if you have a business idea, if you need a reduction in payment friction or an increase in data integrity, reach out to Tal, reach out to Mempool, you know, depending on what part of the globe you're on. If you're in the West, talk to Tal. If you're in the East in China or whatever, reach out to Mempool and say, hey, I got this idea. Are you willing to work with me? And I guarantee you, if you're going to be pushing them transactions, they're going to be willing to do something cool with you. Like that's the beauty of it. Curtin Joshua, is anyone working on Chainlink for BSV? How we do oracles now? Off the top of my head, I'm not aware. Josh, do you know anybody?
I'm not aware of what Chainlink does, but as far as oracles, I know people have been talking about it. So I don't know anything specific, but there might be folks working on that. I know it's something that's been discussed a lot, like having this type of stuff as a service for, you know, for token protocols or just scripts or randomness or whatever. So I think that stuff will come, but I'm not aware of any specifics.
For sure. I want to touch, we keep getting comments. I see them flying by about soon meme, since this is soon Eve.
Yeah.
I think the issue here, I mean, there's always big news, right? The big news is coming. The perceived leaders of the network, the centers of the network are perceived to be up to some magical thing. And I feel like that's, first of all, I can't relate with having my hands out and waiting for waiting for the rain to make me rich, I guess. But that's kind of that's the attitude in the entire crypto space. Like buy coin, do nothing, get rich, sell coin, right? And I don't love that. And big news is not always good news. Sometimes it is, oftentimes it is. But that's why I'm not here, or that's not why I'm here. And you know, I also tend to think it's a little bit weird that everyone has decided that it's you know, some giant piece of great news. It has me a little bit worried. I mean, it has me a little bit worried about like culturally what that even means. So, Josh, any thoughts about Soon meme? How did Soon even start? Is this the Craig stuff, like talking about Saturn and Wednesday, or
I've been watching the Numpties on Twitch and their show. They are very critical of Craig and the people in BSV, and a lot of it I think is justified. And this Soon meme started with people there started to talk about how silly all this stuff is and how all these announcements are all lame, which they are, and how they don't lead to anything. So, you know, all these promises from Craig, which, you know, he can do whatever he wants. But I don't particularly care about what he's doing, but, you know, other people have gotten tired of him, right? So I think that's where the Soon meme came from. And then they started making actual memes of them to shilling stuff and, you know, posting cryptic stuff and saying coming soon, coming soon. And I think people are just tired of it, right? I mean, you know, people put stuff out there, they say this stuff's coming out, and, you know, there is a lack of accountability when it comes to this stuff too. It's like, you know, people have made announcements in the past and then they don't deliver till like 8 months later, right? But like no one is, who is saying, hey, you know, why was this late, right? And, you know, some of this stuff's understandable, right? Like days, weeks, because, you know, there's bugs and all that type of stuff. But I think the fact that Derek McGill and Isaac and the Frog King guy on Twitch, that they start, and TOG and all these guys, they've been making these memes, which have been super funny. It's going to have a great impact. That this is where the accountability starts. Because tomorrow, if these people do not come through with something, they will lose a lot of credibility. So they can't come out there and say soon, because everyone's just going to be like, oh, they're just going to meme you to death. You're going to get made fun of. It's like when you show up to class with like a booger on your face or something, and you're just going to get laughed out the room, like, right? That's just what's going to happen. So, yeah. You know, tomorrow, you know, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm very skeptical of anything that's going to happen. So I just look at it, okay, this is kind of a point where we can hold folks accountable.
And I think that's important. I've been saying it for 2 years. I actually shared a bunch of tweets. This is probably 5 days ago now. I shared a bunch of my old tweets saying exactly that. Like, get off your own ass and get to work. Like, if you think Calvin and Craig are going to make you rich, then, I mean, you got all kinds of problems. I mean, these are the same people that sit and collect welfare checks and assume they're going to, you know, they're going to be sports stars or something someday, you know? And it's like, I'm sorry, like life is unfair and really difficult. And it's like the HODL meme. I don't want to say doesn't work, but it doesn't work forever. And, you know, BTC, people made a lot of money just holding coins. And I think that's awesome. I'm super happy for people that made tons of money on Ethereum and everything else. Like the normal people that like put $1,000 into Ethereum a year ago, like, you know, they're sitting on 10, 12, 15 grand now. And like, I think that's really cool. Like I'm happy for those people, but I'm excited. And the whole reason I've been interested in BSV from day one is that it's a business development opportunity. Like it is a platform that allows people like Josh to bang out a cool token that does something fun, but also, you know, something like Twitch. The Twitch guys came from the Ethereum community. Like they got into crypto and looking at stuff like ETH, and they're like, hey, cool, a world computer. We're going to build a social network. And then they realized very quickly, Ethereum doesn't even work. So, you know, and then they were stuck like, oh, shoot, maybe our idea is impossible because blockchains don't scale. And BSV proves that blockchains can scale. It's not perfect. It's not implemented in the best way right now. There's all kinds of economic problems. There's all kinds of challenges. We got people everywhere that are, you know, some people are valuable. Some people just look valuable and they're not. But ultimately, BSV more than anything is an opportunity. Like it is the opportunity to build something that is instantly globally available to change the world. I mean, you're a business right now. If you can, you don't even have to code. I mean, you could probably pay Josh to code up your brilliant business idea and give him a little bit of equity or give him a little bit of money, and he'll build you a damn business on chain if you got the business plan. So like, I think that is so exciting, and I'm shocked how few people are willing to do anything to pursue that. It's mind blowing to me that more people aren't just like scratching toward business victory here.
You know, with this, with BTC going up over the last few weeks and months, I've started to develop a little bit of sympathy for like the old guys, like the guys who have been around since, you know, 2010, 2013 or whatever. Because, you know, if there's several of these people that have been in for that long who know what BSV is and know what Bitcoin was. I guess big blockers is the general term, not medium blockers like on BCH. But it must suck for them. Like those guys, it must really suck to watch all this going on, BTC going to almost 60K, while what Bitcoin was supposed to be just sitting at 200, and that like the stable coin, right? So I was gonna make a point to what you were saying, but the hodling thing, yeah. So like these guys have benefited from that, right? But it just must be tiring. So like I have like with Craig, and I mean, if you think about it, every person who was early like that, they've probably gone away at some point, right? Or they've gone crazy. Like if you think about it, they're all controversial. I mean, seriously, right? I mean, you look at Craig, right? He left. He did leave, and he came back. But you look at all the rest of these guys. I mean, the guy he talks about, Bear, he left. Gavin left. Hearn left. All those guys dipped out because it was just too much. So anyone who's still around, I mean, yeah, it you know, if they sold, they benefited. But I think that kind of relates to people wanting to emulate that. Right? They see, oh, well, that got mine in 2010. I can just get some now and hodl, and I'll be fine. Which that might be right, but it must. I wouldn't want to be in a position where I have no impact on that.
Right. Well, that's important too. You know, like we talk a lot about spending and building businesses and that kind of thing, but like there is also an investment thesis. Like whatever investment thesis in Bitcoin actually exists is just as relevant to BSV. In fact, more so than it would be in BTC. But it's a different argument. Like we need to show that BSV's superlatives are actually valuable, and I think right now people aren't aware of it. They don't understand. Why would I? We had the guy asking, like, why would I move to a BSV based solution? And it's like, well, maybe you wouldn't, you know, like, and no offense to that, like, not everybody can think of a business model that utilizes distributed consensus and global public data ownership and all of that. Like, none of that is simple. These are all new things. But if you have a business where, like, hey, it's crucial for my clients to own their token, own their identity, and be able to transact little microscopic pieces of value with each other, well, then BSV is the only thing that solves your business problem. And, you know, sometimes these things take 12 years and sometimes they take 20 years. But we have a disruptive piece of technology. We have the best one. And what we need are entrepreneurs. And we even have some of those too, but we need more people to understand the opportunity. And we need them to work their asses off. We need people to literally spend 50 hours a week cold calling and doing the business dev and walking into, you know, bring donuts to potential clients and say, hey, let me pay you in a donut for 5 minutes of your time here, and say, hey, do you need reduced payment friction? Do you need increased data integrity? Do you have clients that want to own their data on a public ledger? And, you know, if you can be the guy to sell that, I mean, we can be kings of the future, frankly. I mean, we have every opportunity to be some of the richest people in the history of the world. Like, you know, look at Andrew Carnegie. I mean, he came here, I believe he was an orphan, and hopped on a ship and came here from Scotland as a little kid. He was nobody. He was an absolute nobody. And by the end of his life, he was one of the richest men in the entire world. And it's because he saw this massive opportunity that nobody else saw, and he busted his ass. He worked harder than anybody else until nobody could keep up with his success. And that's truly the opportunity we have here. So I hope everybody saw the opportunity to sweep that wallet from Satoshi, our delightful sponsor and our often sponsor of these live casts. Do we have another? Let's pick maybe 3 to 5 more questions, and then we'll wrap up here. Coffee Eater, I have a question for you too, Kurt. When fitting a bath screen to a tiled partition wall, what are the correct fixings to ensure a strong hold? How can BSV improve the current solution's elbow cuff? Josh, do you do light construction? Are you good with tile and grout?
Definitely not.
I've done tile once in my life, and I should probably never do it again. So I can connect you with construction-based live streams and podcasts. However, just send me a DM. Options are just too much. Getting confused. What is the best low-hanging fruit app? I don't even know what that means. Like, are you looking for a business opportunity? I mean, I think the easiest thing to use is Twitch. Like, hop on Twitch and start communicating with people. I think
to build.
To build?
Yeah.
Yeah.
what's the low hanging fruit app to build?
I think anything where it's important for the change in the state of something digital, then that's something that could be put on chain. Like if there can be more value in your data, if it's made permanent that your data has changed or that the state of your data has changed, then you can sell that service to anybody. But I mean, that could apply to a million different things. And it's actually pretty trivial to do too. I mean, that's like network monitoring, and then you just upload the data every time there's a change. So take a cut in the middle. So
TOG's in the chat. He's saying what I was thinking, which is NFTs. I think that's getting popular right now. And yeah, he's exactly right. Like you can store that stuff on chain. I know Ethereum's having problems with this because it costs like $600 or something like that.
Yeah.
But you can do it on Bitcoin for like, 1,000 Satoshis or whatever. And
right.
You start trading that stuff. I mean, no one's done it yet because we're still like, the infrastructure is not there to for people to support tokens and all that type of stuff. But as you can see, that's changing.
Yep, rapidly.
I'm looking forward to it. I really think that's when BSV takes off. The enterprise stuff, I think that's later. This digital pets, trading cards, that type of stuff, and just open markets. I think that's how BSV starts dominating.
No, I agree. Will a BSV token made on Money Button work on or in Relay or other BSV token platforms? Or are there many different BSV token protocols? Yeah, there's like a dozen protocols, and right now they don't communicate with each other. However, to make a bridge that makes them basically you're tokenizing your tokens to have compatible tokens across token protocols is an option, but that's another opportunity. Frankly, build a token bridge, like build something where they all can live. So by all means, and in fact, that's exactly what something like Uniswap does. Obviously, Ethereum uses the ERC20 protocol, so anything that's ERC20 compatible works. So that's what most people do. But even NFTs on Ethereum are a different ERC protocol. So things can interact and interop in ways, and you can have multiple layers of things. But I think we need to figure out like the best 2 or 3 token protocols, and those need to be the things that everything's built on BSV too. Testing D, what identity solutions excite you the most at this moment, and what do you think the next level is around the corner? Thanks. I don't know that we have any really great identity solutions at all. I mean, I like that I can log into stuff with my Money Button and my Relay X wallet, but is that really an identity solution? No, like it just means somebody has my phone and opened it. So I don't know. What do you think, Josh? I don't think there's anything real fascinating in that space yet, right?
No, there's nothing there. I think it can come, but it doesn't really exist yet. I know Legally Chain was doing something with that, but I don't know what they're doing right now. I think that's one of those enterprise type things that'll come later. Like it's just, I don't think people care enough or have the investment or resources to make something like that. And I think something like that will have very low usage right now.
Yeah.
On Bitcoin. Yeah.
I think what's it called? That company with a K was announced at the last CoinGeek conference, and they're a KYC company, but they provide like business level KYC services. But I still don't. I don't think they're doing on-chain identity. I think they want to use Bitcoin as an attestation to their centralized identity stuff. So, yeah, right now, I mean, there's an opportunity there, but you need millions of people using BSV in order for them to want BSV to be the basis of an identity solution. So we need more demand, just like you've said probably 5 times now. We create other things, get more people on chain, and then the identity solutions make more sense. Jordan, I'm going to say Pridey. How does run enforce code execution? Is the code compiled to Bitcoin script? This is a pure Josh question here.
So run works with JavaScript. So you would need to run JavaScript to execute like the what's called the jigs code. So those are fungible tokens or non-fungible tokens. And so JavaScript would run that. but you lock the objects in a UTXO. So it doesn't compile the Bitcoin script, but you can put these objects into scripts, if that makes sense. So the general way, like the way I sent these, are the same way everyone sends money, which is just to an address, right? But I could do jigs to a public key. I could do jigs in a math script, a proof of work script. But the code that's in the jig would run in JavaScript, and that's done off chain. But you could authorize the transfers of those along with Bitcoin script. I hope that explains it.
Makes sense to me. So again, I just wanted to say thank you. We're going to get wrapped up here. So Josh, really, it's an honor to have you on here. I'm also honored plainly just to be your friend and to chit chat about stuff in the Bitcoin economy anyways, but I'm really glad to have you on the show and glad for you to have given the idea for the show. So thanks. Any closing words? Any shout outs?
Shout out to RelayX for helping me get that Schwa release out, and I'll do a more formal announcement on my social media about how we can get this started. And thanks also to you, Kurt, for having me on today.
Yeah, for sure. It's my pleasure. And yeah, everybody follow Josh. What's the best place to follow you, Josh?
I'm 145 on Twitch and at Crypto Acorns on Twitter.
Lovely. Thanks for being on, sir. I will talk to you soon.
All right, thanks.
So let's talk about, I'm going to answer another couple of questions and say thank you to a few people here as we wrap up. Just to reiterate a little bit, soon doesn't matter. You go create your own soon. That's how the world becomes a better place. I got people asking about Tether. You know what? Tether maybe just got a slap on the wrist. And I think what that does is tell people, don't be afraid to get in and do a little bit of gray market work, like turn gray markets into white markets. If you're a good person with a good business model and you want to disrupt the world, well, that's your opportunity. Like, create value and then make the regulators come to you. And I know that's scary, but law meme versus soon meme versus, go make $1 billion and change the world. I think that's a better meme. So don't be afraid to play a little bit on the weird side of the pool. If you're not malicious and you're not doing bad things, like if you're not the exit scam, then you're disrupting markets and you're doing cool stuff. And I think that's a really important thing to do too. We also had a couple of people talking about, like, how can I be a representative of my community? That's a great question. I ended up doing what I'm doing right here by just talking to people about Bitcoin. I was a meetup host and I started a Facebook group about Bitcoin, and I'm an admin in some spots and really just learned Bitcoin for myself and just started sharing it. I wasn't some polished media person. I in fact don't even think I'm currently a polished media person, but I've come to learn about Bitcoin by just doing Bitcoin stuff and sharing with the real people in my real life. I can tell you in 2013, 14, and 15, I spent a lot of time trying to onboard brick and mortar merchants. I would go to the place, coffee shops and hot dog places and stuff and say, hey, you should accept Bitcoin here. And some of them did, and you learn lessons that way too. So, but it's not a one size fits all kind of thing. And there's a lot of stuff that is unique to your situation that might matter. But I'm going to be starting a meetup, basically a meetup training in association with the Bitcoin Association to train meetup hosts. And then we can have better local opportunities like that and attract people that are interested in Bitcoin. And I would like them to be semi-developer focused and semi-business development focused and some other stuff like that. So that's an opportunity. But in the meantime, you can go to existing meetups, like go to your local Bitcoin meetup or your local Ethereum meetup even and say, hey, have you heard of BSV? It's good for 50,000 transactions a second and the best data integrity solutions in the world. So there's stuff like that too. Alex, you got anything else for me before I wrap up and say thanks to our sponsors? I think we hit most things here. Kurt, can you talk to the right people to get beginner's course on Scrypt, not for free, as I would like to learn, as I have ideas? It's a good question. Xiaowei is the developer of Scrypt. his username is Sino Trinity on Twitter. Just reach out, DM him. I think he lives in California, in San Francisco, and he's been putting out Medium articles about his stuff. So if you have a basic understanding of JavaScript, it's similar to that. SCrypt is a similar thing to JavaScript intentionally. So there's opportunity there. But you're absolutely right. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be learned on that front too. The more developers we can train, then we all win. So I'm going to thank everybody again and remind your friends, please bring them here every Tuesday, 1 o'clock Central Time, 2 o'clock Eastern, and it's probably 8:30 or something over by Alex in the UK. Just kidding. It's not how time works. But for real, bring your friends, bring newcomers to the show. This is actually a pretty good way to bring people who want to hear about some of the other stuff Bitcoin's capable of. You can bring them to the show. I'm happy to answer questions from everybody. So if you're afraid to answer questions, bring them to the CoinGeek Weekly live stream starring me, Kurt Wooker Jr. I'm very happy to answer your questions, comments, blessings, cursings, grapes, gripes, or gropes. And I will see you next week. Bye, everybody.
This is buybsv.com, the quick and simple way to buy Bitcoin SV. You can't miss it. It says a quick and simple way to buy BSV on buybsv.com. It's safe and secure. Within an hour, you'll own BSV digital assets, which means it's so quick and simple. So if you want to buy BSV, use buybsv.com. It does exactly what it says.